Good morning and Mazel Tov. Here we are in our bringing and conclusion of the first maamer of Kuntres Bikkur Chicago, Touching a City's Soul. We did an incredible job, and I'm so proud of everybody who joined us either every day or even if you missed a day, I'm sure you caught up. But we learned it. We did it. We learned this beautiful maamer. It had so many powerful messages. And even through our discussions at the end of this year, and also through our discussions, throughout the maamer, we, in my opinion, I personally learned so much and I gained so much, and I'm sure everybody else did too. So for today, for our bringing, I wanted to quickly go through the flow, and then also go through a discussion on what are some of the topics that I personally gained so much from, and how I'm living with them in my life. And hopefully everybody else also feels that way about the maamer. So we started with this concept that there's 4 parts to this pasuk. The pasuk that we brought from the maamer is from Tehillim. Trust in Shem and do good. Dwell in the land and be nourished by your faith. So we started a beautiful discussion about the difference between bitachon and emunah, and why is it that the first part of the maamer, the first part of the pasuk was trusting in Hashem. Usually we assume, even the Arishal Mordechai Bashkin, Aleph comes first. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, emunah, bitachon, geula, right? So Aleph comes first. Why is it that in this pasuk we're starting with bitachon? So we brought a lot of beautiful opinions on it. And not only that, but we explained that if we do these first 2 things, it leads to the last 2 things. So trusting in Hashem and doing good, so not just taking that trust and saying, okay, I trust, that's it. You tell yourself, you talk yourself into it or out of your fears or out of your whatever situation. Sorry, there we go. But it also means to take the actions that it takes to actually trust in Hashem, So sometimes I've had this in my life where I say, I'm happy tachon. And then secretly at night, I'm like petrified. And I'm having a hard time following the steps it takes to really live with that bitachon. So here it's the same thing. We need to take the first step of trusting in Hashem, and we need to actually let it affect us in here, let it affect us in our heart and in our actions, that it should permeate us really through and through. And we shouldn't have this dichotomy of, I say I trust in Hashem, but do I actually do the things that it takes, So that was one of the topics that I really, really, really appreciated. Another one is that, how does Rashi, what does Rashi have to say about this pasuk is that many of us have a hard time, maybe not within this group, but many human beings in the world have a hard time trusting that by doing the right thing, we're going to get by doing good, we're going to get, so to speak, the reward for doing that good. So we saw this very clearly in the past few months when, at different times there was looting, there was robbing, and sometimes it's hard for people to realize that your parnasa comes from the Eibishter, and that you don't have to do something that it's against halacha or even, against moral laws to succeed in life. Sometimes we feel like we have to do, that cheating, that stealing, that under the table, cutting corners, whatever. And here Rashi is explaining to us, what does it mean to do good based on trusting in Hashem? It means you have to realize that the Eibishter is in charge of your parnasa, the Eibishter is in charge of your health, the Eibishter is in charge of your, your well-being, and you have to trust Hashem with it. You can't cut corners and not do good in order to move forward and try to, cheat your way into success. That's not how it works. You can't go against the nature that the Eibishter created in this world and succeed. We have to, Hashem created the world, and Hashem's the one that gave us the rule book on how to play it. It's like like somebody's playing chess, they're cheating the rules, and it's like it doesn't work to cheat the rules of chess when you're playing the chess master, right? We also had a beautiful discussion about the Ramban, which I love this. The Ramban's opinion about why we say trust before emunah. Why do we say bitachon before emunah? And the way the Ramban explained it was, not everybody that has emunah necessarily lives with bitachon. Meaning, not everybody who has this understanding, belief, knowledge, whatever we want to call it, of Hashem's existence, I can't even say existence, Hashem's, creating and running the world in its fullest extent. Just because we know Hashem is in charge doesn't necessarily mean we trust him. And it's something I've been grappling with a lot. I know a lot of, through a lot of the suffering that's been happening the past few months, sometimes people know that Hashem is in charge. Sometimes people know that Hashem, is taking care of their sick, family member, or their sick friend, close relative, whatever. But it still makes it hard to turn to Hashem and say, okay, I know not only are you in charge, but I trust that you're going to do what's best for my, for my friend, for my family member. So one thing is knowing that Hashem is in charge, knowing that Hashem created the world, Hashem rules the world. The other thing is to be able to really put your eggs on Hashem's basket, so to speak, and trust him fully. And many times we fight against that. And we work really hard towards, and it doesn't mean don't make hashtadlus in other ways, doctors are here for a reason, and all these different things are here for a reason, but the real trust, I was recently speaking to somebody about how a doctor needs to be the shliach for Hashem's Yeshua. So our trust in something else, someone else, we have to realize that something else, that someone else really is just, a puppet to the real puppeteer, which is the Eibishter himself. So to believe in Hashem is one thing, but to really trust in Hashem, to really have bitachon and give yourself in full mind, heart, and spirit, and with all your emotions, give yourself to Hashem and trust in him, it takes more, it takes work. It takes a lot of work. Which then led to a whole discussion from the Rebbe Rashab, which basically said, one second, emunah needs to be nourished and sustained. So we have to feed and sustain our emunah. What does that even mean? The Frierdiker Rebbe brought this up, and a beautiful, beautiful explanation about, one second, that means we have to go back and understand, what does it mean to eat? What does it mean to nourish yourself? What does it mean to really feed yourself the right stuff? And we have to understand the begashmis, and then we can understand the beruchnis. So begashmis, it means this incredible thing that happens when we take something which is, so to speak, a lower nitzitza. It's lower in the sense of creation, right? From the speaker, from the man, from the plant world, from the inanimate, So out of all these, we eat things, so to speak, that are lower in the chain of, food chain, so to speak. Humans eat things that are lower in the food chain. And meanwhile, that is what gives us a bond by having breakfast, real good breakfast, not just empty, breakfast, but having a proper breakfast in the proper time, by having a proper lunch in the proper time, by making sure you're eating and taking good care of your health. You are making a stronger bond between your nefashos, your soul, and your body, your nefesh elokis, and your actual physical body. If we're not taking care of eating, if we're not taking care of eating healthy and taking good care of our bodies, then our neshama has nothing to grab onto. It has, if chas v'shalom we're destroying our physical body, so then what ends up happening is that the neshama has a hard time staying in that physical body. It doesn't have what to hold on to. So by us making the choices to nourish ourselves, nourish our bodies, and really take good care of them, we're actually making the keli to receive the neshama that needs to go into that body. So it's very important for us to not just eat, but eat the right things, and not just, not torture our bodies, and not, we're not here to destroy. We're here to make a beautiful marriage and make a dir b'tachtainim. And in order to make a dir b'tachtainim, we need that marriage between physical and spiritual. Then we went to explain, one second, how does this whole thing, in order to understand even deeper this concept of nourishing emunah, we have to discuss Moshe and Avram. And Moshe is the Raya Mehemna. He's called the faithful shepherd, or the shepherd of faith. And his job is to help us feed and sustain our emunah. We then analyze that even deeper by understanding that Moshe's neshama is so high and so pure that the source of his neshama, way above in Atzilus, went through the entire Seder Shtalshus to get down to this world, but it was not affected by that process. The same source as it was above is the same source that is here, and which is one of the reasons why it says that, when Moshe was born, light filled the, Yocheved said she saw that he was good, and the Mefarshim explained that means that the house became filled with light. That very high and special neshama went through the whole process of coming down, and it was not changed whatsoever. That purity, that essence of his neshama was pristine and intact the entire time. Now, as we went through it, we understood, what does that mean? It means that from, that because of this soul relationship and bond, Moshe Rabbeinu had a much more powerful way of infusing us with emunah. And as it says that, I think it says later in the maamer, but it says that it went from the point of, it says in page 65, the implication of the pasuk, know the God of your father. Sorry, maybe that's not where it is. Anyway, it says later in the maamer how it changed, how things changed, the wording changed, that, they believed, and then when Moshe became, after Moshe, it became, the Yidden knew. So Moshe was able to feed and sustain our emunah back then, meaning, and how much more so we can obviously take this for the Moshe of our generation. And then we made, which then brought in an interesting discussion that, and again, it's not anything negative about Avram, but it was just to show the contrast of even Avram, who's one of our, Avos. It's said that Avram is the epitome of Chesed in his time, so to speak, and his neshama came from Chesed of Atzilus and all these things. But Avram himself said that his neshama was dust and ashes in comparison to where, when it came here, in comparison to, the source of, an actual tree. So between ashes and a tree, it's a very big difference. What's changed? And we actually, the Friedrich Rebbe analyzed that and explained to us what is the difference between ashes and a tree, and how there's 4 elements. And, once fire comes, it burns out 3 of the elements. It all really leaves is the essence of earth, the earthiness of the tree. And that's what ashes are. And that doesn't even explain how much Avram Avinu's neshama, as it went through Seder Shtalshus, was, so to speak, affected by the process of going through Seder Shtalshus. And what we got here in this world of Avram Avinu's neshama was, in a certain sense, diminished in comparison to how great the source of his neshama. And it just goes to show how amazing the source of his neshama was, that this is the comparison. We also went to explain how the souls that come, where's my little, the neshamas that come in their essence from Atzilus, right? They are called Zera Adam. And they have this innate ability to have das, to have a real bond and relationship and connection with Kedusha. It's as if they see it with, simply. And we gave a lot of different examples. The Alter Rebbe knew what time it was, even though he wasn't able to, have a clock, and he was in solitary confinement, and he knew what time it was by the fact that he was able to sense which malachim were singing praises to Hashem, and he knows which malachim sing praises to Hashem at what time. Okay, so I'll speak for myself. I'm not on that level. So the people whose neshamas come from Atzilus are Zera Adam, and everybody else whose neshamas come from the other world are Zera Behema. And for us, we have two ways, and I think that's basically the conclusion of the maamer, that we have two ways, not exclusive of each other, but they work together, two ways of reaching this level, so to speak, or working towards reaching this level. One of them is by connecting to our, connecting to the Raya Mehemna, to the faithful shepherd, by bonding, by having that type of relationship with the Moshe Rabbeinu and the Moshe Rabbeinu of our generation. We're able to have that. We're able to see, and that was the next part in the maamer, that when we learn in such a way that we're able to take not just an intellectual concept. If you come and you say, I learned this piece of Chassidus, the Kav and the, Makam Panay, and then the Kav came in, and then Atzilus and Bria and Yitzir and Asiya, and and you give me the entire setup of Seder Ishtalshus. That's beautiful. Now the question is, how much have you connected to it? Is it just an intellectual concept? Is it just an understanding, just the same way as you would tell me, what is it called? The process in which the plants, I'm totally spacing out right now. The process in which the plants turn, certain things into oxygen. Like, we could go and we could, I could explain to you any part of biology, any part of chemistry in the same intellectual way, so to speak, lahavdil, right? But the difference is, and this is, I think, the bottom line of the maamer, the difference is we need to learn in such a way, we need to connect with our learning, with our our Torah learning and Chassidus and whatever it is, in such a way that it's as if we're seeing it with our own eyes. We are affecting ourselves in such a way that we're able to live with these concepts. You close your eyes and you're able to see, this maamer is so clear. What is this maamer teaching me, that I have to push myself to bond and connect with my learning. I have to push myself to bond and connect with my Raya Mehemna. I have to push myself to really make an impact in my life. Don't just learn because you have to. Don't just be a checklist chassid. Check. I did my chitas, I did my Rambam, I did my this, I went to Miftzayim, and I spoke to people about Yiddishkeit, and check. You need to be a living example of this. And not just that, but we have to remember, and that was the last part of the maamer, which is so powerful, that as much as we can enjoy Torah learning, we can enjoy mitzvahs because they make sense, because they're an intellectual exercise. We have to remember that the essence of it all is the Eibusher himself. And the bottom line is always Kedusha. It's always holiness. It's always purity. So it's not just an intellectual concept. It's not just an understanding that we have in our mind that we can, and even that takes time. It takes time to know the maamer so well. You can close your eyes and visualize it. It takes time to know a concept in Chassidus so well, but we have to make that effort. We have to close the book and say, okay, if I were to explain it to someone, and I wanted to share this yesterday, there's a Bucky in Chassidus, his name was Rabbi Yamin Walters, and he once spoke to my husband and he said, you know a concept in Chassidus so well, when you can explain it to someone, even someone who's not Jewish, who has no idea what you're saying, you can explain it to them and they can come out of it knowing something useful, something, understanding something in their lives. So that's challenge, and we have to work on it. And this is the das that we need to feed and nourish and sustain. And this is what gives us the emunah. This is what gives us a connection with our Raya Mehemna. This is what gives us a real bond with the kedusha of our Torah learning. And this is what's going to put on your Hashem glasses to see the world through Hashem's perspective and to live with it. And essentially, that's what's going to happen. That's the reality of Mashiach in our world. When we see the elokus in everything, when we see the essence of where it came from and where it's going and how it's all kedusha and the Eibishter in of itself. And I think this is this maamer is a life. I mean, I feel like I say this with every maamer, but this maamer is a life-changing maamer because this maamer teaches you how to learn every other maamer. It teaches you how to learn chumash. It teaches you how to learn halacha, chassidus, any type, because we have to work on it. We have to make it real. We have to make it living chassidus, not just chassidus as a concept, not just chassidus as an intellectual understanding, not just joining a shir. You have to be a living, walking example of the Rebbe. You have to be a living, walking example of the maamer and the chassidus that you just learned. So I hope we can all take. For myself, this maamer really pushed me a lot harder to be able to really understand and learn and live, and hopefully we will continue to learn chassidus and we'll continue to learn chassidus in such a way. And I'm excited. Mitzvah Shem, I hope everybody. It's only like 3 or 4 pages, I think, maybe 6 pages, something like that. The sichas in between this maamer and the next maamer, but Be'ezras Hashem will be learning the next maamer. I think for the next maamer, we'll be learning only from Monday to Friday. Sunday is a bit harder for me. But I'm excited to continue on with the Sefer, and I'm excited to continue on with the next maamer, which is also very, very powerful. So Mazel Tov, and we did it. We should continue Mechail El Chayil.